Uh, let's just start this, right? I think the topic that we want to discuss is why students could make a hell of a difference to a startup like Step Up, right? So that's the question. And Tim, if you don't mind, just tell us another time why you think students are going to be playing such an important role in creating that network effect, right? Every startup sort of craves for that network effect, isn't it? And we have two actors. One is the refugees who are stuck in refugee camps, and that's not the only one that we're going to tackle. Think of them as the first sample set that we are tackling, and then we can really go. So that's the first actor, the refugees, with less access to everything in life. And then the other side of the world is executives, founders, people who need services that these refugees could provide, right? So these are the two main actors of our game, right? Now, what's the point of having students in this? Why can't the refugees and the executives and founders, just have conversation just like normal two people in normal business, So these guys have a need. These guys have can must fulfill that need. Why can't they simply just meet with each other, and then solve all? Why do we need students to come in between these two people?
Well, as you mentioned in our sort of startup meeting, Anis, yeah, students have credibility, certain credibility being at quite prestigious institutions. They have confidence, otherwise they wouldn't have probably got in, because you need a certain amount of confidence and self-belief. And they have ambition as well, I think, to thinking ahead to careers. The ambition to meet with and network with professional people in the professional zone. And the last thing I would add to that is also they have, as I think a lot of young people have, compassion, empathy, values that they hope to impart on the things they undertake. So they have a lot to gain from this, of course. And from the perspective of the employers, I think it's a case of potentially making use of I mean, the work you've already done highlights the fact that there's a huge pool of untapped labor in the world, and if we can use students to bridge that gap, and to build a confidence to then, I guess maybe the goal would be to eventually cut out the middleman to foster those relationships to the point where they become self-sufficient. So that's where students, I think, come in.
Awesome. Anything that Zoe, you or Catherine, wants to add to this? Why students? Why should we? Yes, credibility, like Tim really, I mean, for me, credibility is the most important thing, right? But there are others. I mean, we could literally, divide and rule the space, right? What do the students get by interacting with refugees? Yes, there is compassion, yes, there is learning, yes, there is all those good things, but there is also what do the students gain by interacting with 10 different founders from Silicon Valley, from Germany, from there is a lot of learning over there as well, right? Learning from founders, learning from top executives across the world. What does their job really do? What do they need in order to be successful? All those learnings are priceless. It's not just the learning from one side of the pool, which is the refugees. Yeah, there's a different kind of in fact, I would say that's more coaching rather than learning. Like, you're more going to be coaching. On the other side, you're going to be exposed to the real world of work. What matters, if it is a startup, if it is a creator, something else. If it is an executive, then something else. I think, that'll be brilliant in terms of, what you could. Are there anything else that we are missing out? Why should we do this?
Just like generally, just thinking back to like, as we study this, trying to figure out like past examples of how this might have been successful and stuff and different ways that it's been implemented. I think just the idea that like internships already exist as a really common widespread institution, both on behalf of like students having that expectation to do typically unpaid work for the advantages we were talking about, but also for the companies. They're used to interacting with students, knowing like the stage that they're at in their development, but understanding the potential they have and like the desire and ambition and all that we discussed. So I think it's not reinventing the wheel. I think it's just taking advantage of it in a unique way that I think is a really cool thing that you're proposing.
Yeah, that's really cool. Anything else, Zoe? I think, I'm just like, see, I think I'm also thinking, a little bit selfish. If I was a student, right? Yeah, I understand, working and volunteering and everything else, and then all these, indirect benefits that I'm going to get, etc., etc. But I'm just really keen to do something which is also, like I have this obsession for wealth creation. Everybody must be creating wealth, throughout their lives in some small or simple ways, right? And I have this simple philosophy that wealth can never be created by wages, right? It's never, even if you earn $1 million a month, like some footballers, you don't create wealth. You just spend it, basically. Wealth gets created, when you are investing, when you are, having equity, when you have, I think that's really, in my thinking. So I think, yeah, go ahead, Josie.
I was just gonna build on what you were saying, in that I think that's almost what's unique about like having this kind of voluntary experience and not being incentivized by money. It kind of forces people to think a bit more creatively, think outside the box, work more collaboratively. So it's like they're gaining more skills through that, and then you're kind of getting people who are more kind of productive, more motivated. So I think ultimately that's almost like kind of creating a pathway for them to be more entrepreneurial in a way. And
Sure.
It's more beneficial for everyone.
Sure. No, what I want to add to that, Zoe, is a simple thing. I want to give this as a freedom to you guys to think about it, right? There is a fourth project that I talked about. I'm not sure whether anybody picked it up, but I talked about, a fourth project, which is the ability to, distribute whatever we make out of this whole thing in some meaningful way to every participant involved in this, in this whole exercise, right? So there are various participants. There is refugees who are participating. There are clients who are participating. Today we are thinking about students, right? They could be brand ambassadors. They could be anybody. All these various actors. And what I had given the fourth team is the ability to, figure out how we can reward these people for the outcomes that they are delivering. Because I truly believe that, there must be some reward system, which is a little bit more quantifiable and, and palpable, isn't it? Not everything should be just, fuzzy, right? Something that's really clear and open and transparent, So I just want you to have that ammunition with you, because, I think it's an important one. I know you guys are not going to do that, but I think it's really important for sustaining this whole thing, because I truly believe anything that is, just like, oh, let's try to give it a shot, completely voluntary, this thing, right? It just doesn't scale to the level to which we want to scale, right? If it is 100%, volunteering, right? I mean, that's my thinking. I may be completely wrong, but I just want you to have these things, at your disposal to build the whole story, right? Right. So I think we have established the why we want to, do this. I think it's going to be important. How?
Could I just jump in and ask a little bit more about your idea of credibility? And kind of, you said that was like your main point, and so like do you think it's important for us to kind of be focusing on kind of like raising the credibility of refugees like first? Is that a priority, or should we just be kind of concentrating on looking at student supporter networks and getting credibility elsewhere?
That's a really good question, really a good question, because, if, no, please feel free to, think in a little divergent fashion, because why? Because, yeah, I just keep thinking about my own experience. Like 25 years ago, we started this company, based in India, and we started developing, software solutions, for global companies like Apple, Microsoft, HSBC, Tesco. But I always wonder, if a bunch of coders from Bangalore try to get in touch with Apple in Cupertino and say, hey, we can help build your CRM system. Apple is going to say, like, what the hell is wrong with you guys? Like, who are you guys? Right? Like, just go back like 30 years, right? Don't think now, because now there is a very different equation, right? So go back 30 years ago, and like there's 50 coders, people who code and do build systems, they got together and they tried reaching Apple or Microsoft or HSBC or Tesco. They would have just been given a cold shoulder, right? I'm just thinking, instead what we did, we picked, like people like me. I went to California in 1997, and I pitched to Apple. Right, I pitched to Apple that we can build your CRM system, and here is how we will do it. On top of a request for proposal from Apple, we put together a brilliant solution. Did everything, and then suddenly it wasn't impractical. Apple thought, oh wow, these guys are really good. Their ideas are excellent. Their thinking is good, but Apple was continuously seeing me and my team in Cupertino in their offices, right? And then they were like, oh, how the hell are you guys able to do it for like 1/10 of the cost that everybody else is saying? You see, it's really strange. You have a very solid solution with all the solid tech stack, with all the bells and whistles that everybody else is giving me, but your cost is nearly 1/10 of your next competitor. How is that possible? So we're like, yeah, that's because we're going to do all the heavy lifting in India, and we're going to be delivering the results over here. So this is how we started. We grew to 350,000 people, $13 billion, $100 billion market cap over a 25-year period. So it's today we do $500 million worth of business with Apple alone. So it's not that difficult to think in a very similar way, right? I mean, unfortunately, these refugees can never go to Apple or anybody else or any founder in WeWork office here in London and then pitch, because they're not going to be taken seriously. But if we could provide that same context that me and my team were able to provide 20 years ago, do you think, I'm just like, thinking along with you guys, because that's what we need. We need a bunch of people to provide that, that context, that credibility, that initial, idea, right? Obviously, with Infosys, we tackled a big thing, right? We like the project that we had to win from Apple was tens of millions of dollars, right? But here we are talking about a $300 commitment. Like, you see, it's like it's not $3 million or even 300,000. It's not 30,000. It's $300, right? How much credibility do you need to think about $300, right? And do you need a 10-day period to pitch to Apple? No, you need like a 30-minute period to tell them what we can do for you, founder or exec, or a VP of sales. It's just a 30-minute block. In 30 minutes, you should be able to convince people they're in or out. You guys with me, right? So, and then once you're in the 30-minute, and that 30-minute is when you create the context. We could do this for you, right? And these are some examples, and here is I'm just thinking that would be the both building the credibility as well as winning the deal as well, isn't it? So I'm just drawing a parallel. I'm not entirely sure it's the right parallel, completely two different contexts, but just thinking aloud. Did that make sense? Right.
So is that student supporters who you envision as that point of contact?
No, I mean, I want you to think through all those things. I'm really, I don't want to give you precise instructions as to like, okay, let's do this. I think we need to make this solution or a pod. One student, 10 refugees, 10 clients. They're like a team. Or one or two students, like a small team of 20 people. So they basically are able to like work as a unit in order to give credibility, do the pitching, whatever else that is needed in order to make that whole team really work. You with me? Maybe it is just appearing in a meeting, and maybe you don't even need to do anything because the team leader from the refugee camp is extremely capable, and he does the pitching, he does everything. Maybe sometimes you need to contribute. I mean, I'm just thinking, there must be various I really think there will be instantaneous credibility when you just introduce yourself with a bunch of other people. I think that itself is like huge, right? But what Zoe is actually trying to do is, can we build credibility other than just appearing in meetings, right? Or I think that's what you're saying, right? Maybe there is another way, but it's going to be hard. I can tell you that, because there's a huge human bias, right? We're not able to fight our own problems in our own countries, right? Racism and so many problems are there, right? We're not able to change that, and this is deep rooted problem, right? You can't change it just by campaigning on social media that guys don't are researching about this topic. It's not going to go away, I think, right? That's what I think. So shall we look for, I think, Zoe, you asked a very important question before this meeting, right? Are there precedents, right? Do we know of any place or any organization that has built a student network to make them successful? Right? Do you guys know of any such organization, you being students?
Because I mean, it's hard to define success and like what scale we're talking, because I mean, certainly at university you're going to have lots of kind of student run organizations and initiatives, and particularly in like the area of kind of improving access to university, like I've been a part of a student run kind of mentoring society, which then we turned into a charity. And so again, it's not talking on the scale that perhaps you are envisioning, but certainly there are lots of people who are getting involved in organizations which are becoming kind of greater than, and there are kind of bigger examples of these kind of access initiatives and charity organizations, which do have hundreds and thousands of people who are involved in them. So yeah, I can think of like examples of those, but perhaps not on like kind of a national scale, but it is happening, and there probably are lessons to be learned from that.
Sure. Anything from Catherine, Tim? I mean, Zoe asked this question. I was a bit, wow, I never thought like that. But no, I have an example. Have you guys heard of Global Shapers?
I hadn't, no.
Let me just see if I can just show you. So I think Global Shapers is a thing, it was created by the World Economic Forum, as far as I remember, right? And let me just think, you need to be like, some age group, like 20, or, like below 20 or below 30. I don't remember when. But Global Shapers is basically a bunch of people who are associated with the World Economic Forum. And let me see if they appear. Yeah. So it's a community, Global Shapers community. And if you see, there are more than 1,500 guys in that. And you can see, like Daniel Parekh is a Global Shaper from London. All these guys, Jaren and Chirag from Mumbai, and Yara from Jeddah. So they have the London hub, and then, in order to apply to this hub, you need to have all these things, and then they select those people, and then from each hub, actually, they select one person, and then they send it to the World Economic Forum every year. So this year, so for example, the Kakuma refugee camp has a Global Shapers hub in Kakuma, and one of our own guys will be going to the World Economic Forum this year, which is in 68 days. And he will be representing the Kakuma Global Shapers hub. Right. So this is a very interesting organization, actually. I really like the way, let me just see if I can just show you Global Shapers. Yeah, community. I like what they do, it's quite powerful. But the only thing I felt was, and look at the number of followers, right? Nearly 68,000 people follow Global Shapers. So it's quite a powerful community, right? Led by young people who are exceptional in their potential, achievements, and drive. I just want to be careful, not to say anything, but I've interacted with hundreds of these guys, right? And it's very interesting, like I like the best I have seen that the Global Shapers do is write reports. For me, that's a huge problem. I know we seem to be going in the same direction, like writing reports or ideas, but for me, I think it has to be action oriented. Whatever we are doing has to lead to action, and has to lead to results, and has to lead to outcomes. So that's why I'm a bit skeptical to go deep into this, but this is something that all of you should look at, if possible, join as well, because I think, it's a phenomenal organization. You can really, express your self in this in a big way. But it's a tricky thing, for me, because it's all the time. The best thing that happens is, it's a lot of exposure rather than like a real outcome. Oh, I wrote this report, and then people talk about it for like 100 days in social media, and you write report, you do this, it's always about you rather than so it's really problematic for me. I mean, but it's a great organization. All of you should really look it up. There is a very, very active London hub in action. I'm sure there might be one in Oxford as well. So it's huge, right? Because as you can see, I think their membership is for 1 or 2 years, so you have to get out. Once you reach a certain age, you're out. So it's like that. So it's a great example organization which we can try and emulate, because they have figured out the operating model for such a thing, right? So you have Oxford hub, London hub, Nairobi hub, Jeddah hub. So you have all these hubs, or Global Shaper hubs, and each hub is doing something for that particular city or something like that. I think that's what they do. But we are talking about one cause, one problem, one thing, and that's really And I don't know, I mean, you guys think about this, right? We are basically saying it's my way or the highway, right? It's like we're not giving students like global shapers, oh, go figure out what is the most important thing needed in Oxford, right? We are saying, look, this is what we need. Are you in or are you out? Right? But we want to make that so interesting and not just interesting from a volunteering or producing some report or those kind of things, or exposure, but literally a way to make a difference and get great experience and create wealth for yourself. That it all has to be and it can't be like oh, this is a social impact, so I'm going to be Buddha or something like that. No, you could do everything, right? That's my 2-minute spiel on this. But look for presidents. There might be some gems. I'm really surprised that you guys didn't know Global Shapers, because it's a very, very powerful organization. So which means I'm sure there must be others that I don't know, right? Yeah. But the other thing that bothers me is, something, whatever we come up with, right, it should be simple, like step by step, which means, people should be able to follow that really easily, like, how to join us, how to, contribute. Everything has to be completely, tech driven and easy. They don't have to come for some meetings, and there's no need for Tim to convince them with some, like, I've seen these these kind of things, right? Like this cult like thing, oh, you need to go meet that, you need to go for that Wednesday meeting, and none of that nonsense. It's like people are free, they just know it's fully open, transparent. Everything we do is like completely open. And you join and you produce outcome and you get rewards. It should be like that. It should be very open, and is what I think. Yeah.
Can I just jump in with a question? It sounds like you want to make this really open and accessible for students who want to basically get involved, not just altruistically, but also for their own self-interest. But how big do you think there's a limit on how many students we can get involved in this? Sort of like, what was the capacity of Step Up One to engage with these students?
No, I if you ask numbers, I can give you numbers, right? It's really, see, I really think, every student can easily interact with at least 10, refugees. That's a good ratio. We could bring it less. One person can interact with one person as well, 1 or 2 people. So based on their commitment, and so it's 1 to 1 or 1 to 5 or 1 to 10. We don't go more than 10, right? So we have more than 10 million people, working age adults, who can come productive. That's this is a little dated number. When the number of refugees in the world was 80 million, this was the number. But now, yesterday, when I heard it at the COP27, they're saying it's already 103 million refugees in the world. I mean, like, how did bloody we add 23 million, in the last 2-3 years? Just unbelievable. So what I'm saying is, it's really, huge. Even if you take 10 million as a number, we're talking about 1 million students, right, across all over the world, especially the Western world, where it's really easy to get that credibility, get that knowledge, language. English speaking is really important, right? So the scale is very big, Tim. It's not small scale. But as with anything, right, I stuck to Kakuma refugee camp, just one camp, right? Even though I didn't do this, but the word got out and other people started joining. I can't say no, but I just keep going back to the same camp. So one camp, let's make that really difference. and then we can go to the next and then to the next. So we can focus on initially, getting a team of 100 to 1,000 people to support this one camp, right? We already have more than 1,500 people, right? So we could easily have 150 or so people to support these 1,500 people, and all I need to do is just open the tap, and I'm just I don't want to open any taps until I know that we can scale slowly. So it's a huge problem, Tim. I didn't realize it when I started. I thought I'll do for 5 guys and just go back to my normal corporate life, but I just got stuck.
I had a question as well. I was just looking around the website and stuff, and I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about the brand ambassadors and brand influencers, that section of it, because I thought that they looked kind of similar in a lot of aspects. So just like what that has looked like so far, and if there's anything that's been successful in that you think might be helpful for us to look at a little bit.
Sure. So again, it's very open for both all of you to explore it. So I really think a brand, all students is basically a brand ambassador, if you think about it, right? It's a nice title. If everybody wants to add another title in their LinkedIn page, they can say brand ambassador for StepUp.one. That's a really nice title to give the students a standing and some credibility for them. Like I've been a brand ambassador for this social impact enterprise for a couple of years, and I did all this great stuff. So that's really cool. A brand influencer is someone like I don't know who cares about refugees in the UK, but let's say we somehow convinced Barack Obama from the US and say, hey, I want you to be my brand somebody or a bunch of Jay-Z or a bunch of singers or somebody. They could be our influencers, people who could influence large crowds, right? To support us in one strike of credibility. Just imagine if we can get a politician, a singer, a footballer, and like 4 different this thing, right? Who could lend their time. We honestly need like 1 minute of their time, or let's say 30 minutes of their time, to prove that we are credible. First of all, we have to do that ourselves, right? We can't just assume that we are credible. So we have to be able to show things. Maybe have this guy meet with hundreds of refugees. Maybe have them talk with them one-on-one with anybody they choose, or maybe even visit Kakuma refugee camp and see what difference we have done. So once they've done all these things, once they believe in the work that we have done, can they simply send out a simple tweet? you understand, right? Hey, these guys are doing something different. I think we should have a look at it. Nothing dramatic. We don't want them to put out some ads and nothing. Just a simple thing. Hey, these guys are credible. Have a look at them. That's it. If you could make let's say 10 famous personalities do that, I think in one stroke we have succeeded in our credibility problem. If you think about it, Zoe, So brand influencers, because you asked for really nice this thing. Thank you, Catherine. I think this is a great thing, right? So by having even one great brand influencer, we could improve our credibility tenfold, right? But an ambassador is not like a famous personality or anything. It's just like somebody who's a little more gritty, he or she is like really want to do the stuff themselves and want to get involved, etc., etc. An influencer is just, they just retweet whatever we tweet. Right? Yeah, that's a difference. So how else we can think about this? I think we've covered the why. The how is not entirely clear. We know what we need. Like so you onboard a student, they get a certain level of branding, etc., on their LinkedIn or whatever is their platform of choice. then maybe we can, I don't know, I'm really not sure how we allocate, let's say, a team of 10, to each of the students who are willing to, be a part of this venture, right? And then maybe, they take part in, a meeting every week, or, every Saturday, something, just for 30 minutes or an hour, they just, I think they have their own meeting with them, something, I mean, this is the logistics, right? I'm just trying to think the logistics of, how this would work. And then obviously the client meetings. And I'm also thinking one of the very, very powerful ways in which it has worked so far is attending events. For example, next week I'm in Helsinki at this event called Slush. It is really a unique event. More than 10,000 people come, in Helsinki. And it's a huge event of startups and investors and pitching to each other, like, for a good 2-3 days. I've got like 50 meetings booked, in a span of 2 days, for in this one, because there's so much of interest for everybody to know what the hell I'm doing, in this space. So I'm really thinking, many of you could be like, representing StartUp.one in these events. Maybe not in Slush. I mean, London is like flush with events, right? And internationally as well, right? All these World Economic Forum is happening in 10 different countries. Web Summit happened last week in Lisbon. In London alone, I think there are hundreds of events happening every single day. So I also found that events, are a very, very powerful way to represent this problem, right? Like, for example, just 3 days ago, in the Royal Geographical Society in London, there was an event by this group called the Ashton Awards or something like that. So they are a climate guys, and they give awards to different people. So they have invited the refugee from Kakuma, who gave us the electricity and Wi-Fi. So they gave him an award for providing StepUp.one with Wi-Fi and electricity in the Kakuma refugee camp. So I was invited as well. So I went there, and I saw something very unique. There were more than 7 people who were, invited from Africa, and all of them, said the same thing. I'm a refugee. Despite me being a refugee, I have achieved this, right? So all of you should admire me. This was their story. I'm just making it very crude so that, you guys understand my point. Nobody was able to make a point that, look, despite me being a refugee, I have set up a business that is scalable, profitable, investable, and therefore invest in me. Nobody said that. Everybody's storyline is, despite my conditions, I have achieved this. So admire me and award me, and then forget about me after that award. Right? I mean, literally, that's what everybody. I was like really disappointed, because I was like, wow, is that all you want? You want a pat on the back? I'll give you that. I'll give you that every day. I'll give you it's like tweeting something and waiting for people to like the tweet, right? I mean, like, is that all you want? Right? So we have to be really different. We have to say, look, this is not about gaining empathy or pity or, volunteering, bullshit. We really want to make a real difference, right? And how could we do that? Despite we being students, despite we being refugees, how could we make a proper, like a business model that is investable, that is like, that is open and transparent, and everybody's like, wow, this is really good, this is working, right? I think that's what we need to aim for, not some empathy or pity, or somebody from Oxford says, yeah, I'm volunteering for this organization, so give me job. It shouldn't be for that. I mean, it will be like that as well, but people over a period of time should be like, if they would want to make this their profession, they should be able to do that. There should be enough money, there should be enough wealth creation in this, if they choose to really want to just jump in and make a bigger difference, right? And I know I'm saying a lot of things for you to comprehend, but these are all there in my mind, because we need to break this thing, right? We have to think like a true Silicon Valley startup. We can't be thinking, oh, have pity on me, have empathy. I'm really, no. I mean, I'm just gonna, at some point in time, I'm gonna stop saying that I'm we are a refugee. So what if we are a refugee? The work that we do, is that really high quality? Is that giving you results? Then how does it matter who we are and what we do? How does it matter to you, right? Because I do not want to keep winning things, based on a little sympathy that these guys are really, no, I'm just saying that just for your ears, to think like that, rather than think like and the last thing is, if we win together, if we become big, and if we become really this thing, and I really truly want to make sure that there is a reward mechanism that allows every participant to create their own wealth, as a part of this, right? Even as a volunteer, right? There is no rule where I mean, we don't have to reward them with cash. We can reward them with equity. There are so many ways you could reward people for the outcomes that they have delivered. Nothing is like there is no charity, right? This is a real thing. That's what I'm thinking in terms of the house, but think through this a little bit more, and what we need, honestly, right, is executable ideas, right? At the end of the day, whatever you guys do, right, you have to come up with a list of executable ideas that would create the hub, create the onboarding, give them the clarity. And one more thing, guys, I think we need to figure out, let's say, if let's take a famous footballer, like someone like David Beckham, who's retired and has nothing else to do in life. So if we have to convince David Beckham that, can you be our brand influencer, what is that we need to give him? As in, like, not money, but I mean, that wouldn't make any sense, right? To pay this guy. But what should we give him? Like, we should be able to say, hey, here is this data room, have a look at this. Here are the people you could call. Here is a people in UNHCR that you can speak to, that we are a credible organization. Here is our accounts, like, I'm just thinking, how do you prove your credibility? Here is our longevity. We've been there for 3.5 years. I think social proof is extremely strong for us. I'm sure, I want you guys to go look at it. Look at our Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn, and see for yourself, and give me a sense of how good or bad it is right now, right? Because social proof is extremely really important. But I don't think these big guys and these influencers are just going to trust us based on how good we are looking in our Instagram and LinkedIn. They will want to see more, and we could do everything. We could fly them to Kakuma. We could we could do everything. There is, like, I have permission from UNHCR, or we could fly them to Geneva to meet with UNHCR guys. But think in those logical executable ways in which we could we could build this credibility. And so broadly, I think, if I think about it, right, we need to we need to, give a name for this idea, this whole student-led, something, right? It's basically some kind of a like global shapers, right? We need to have some name, for this whole thing, so that we can stand behind that name and just market the idea to other students all over the world. Number one. Number two, okay, we have marketed the idea, and there is a good video, there is a good everything. The second is, how will they join us, right? Like, how do you onboard somebody, if they want to join us? The third is, okay, they've joined us. Based on the time commitment that they have, what they can do, like 1, 2, 3, basic stuff. Okay, they have joined us. They have, given us their time, and they are doing ABC activities with refugees, with clients, with maybe some marketing or whatever they are doing. And finally, how do we measure their contribution, and how do we reward their contribution? So, I mean, I'm just thinking, step by step on how, and then how do we just, make it go viral, right? I mean, just, because it can't, we'll just, we will not succeed if it is just a few people here and there, and it's just would be another pain. It has to be a self-regulated, self-fulfilling engine, right? We can't appoint like 10 managers to manage, I'll be like really, really bad. So yeah, I'm just thinking broadly in those ideas. Makes sense.
And how would you suggest we go about kind of like getting inspiration for these ideas? Like, obviously, like, should we go away and try and find more organizations like Global Shapers and see if there are any organizations in the refugee space, or should we be speaking to kind of student volunteers, even just kind of at our own university, seeing what attracts them, or like what kind of ways? Obviously, we've got our own ideas, but how should we kind of like substantiate it, do you think?
Anybody got any thoughts? I have some thoughts, but before I spoil your minds, I just wanted to hear from Catherine and Tim. What do you think we should do? Should we talk to other students? I think they're going to be confused. This might. I really think we need to have we need to have a framework, that we can show people, right? Based on whatever we've just now discussed, right? We will confuse people more if we don't have a clear, if you don't show clarity, to begin with. We can build on it, right? I'm sure you guys know Lean, right? The way Lean startup is built is by designing a number of experiments, right? The first experiment or the first question that we need to answer for is, why do we need student volunteers, to power the whole network effect, right? Because that is what we are fundamentally seeking for. We are seeking network effect, and we are seeking students to do that. And we know the answer. It's credibility. It's connectivity, credibility, and all those kind of things, right? So I really think, we have to put together this framework, and my advice to you guys, Zoe and Kat and Tim, I'm thinking, you guys know this this business model thing, right? You must have done a lot of this one, right? Business model canvas. So it's a simple metrics, that you can thing. So I can show you or share with you this business model canvas. So it's a very simple thing. It has these different things. Let me show you this for Uber, so you will understand that easily. Yeah. So if you look at this, Uber business model canvas, right? And this is really okay. This one. So it says, what are the key activities, so in one page, this gives everything that anybody needs to understand about Uber. That's it, right? I mean, like, it's so it's a powerful way to present, what do we do? Like, the various revenue streams of Uber, we all know this revenue stream, right? Ride transaction fees is our number, but we don't know that search prices are a revenue stream, license fees is a revenue stream, and then all these alternate streams are also revenue streams. So this is how. So we have a StepUp.1 business model canvas, similar to this. It just gives you the complete picture in like a simple way. Everything, like who are the users, who are the drivers, what's our value prop, who are the partners, etc., etc. So, something like this. I'm not saying exactly this could be made as the shapers, right? So we're calling it shapers. So just give me once again. So we can call it shapers or whatever, like StepUp1 or refugee or shapers, or I don't know what we call it, like something, come up with a good name for it. And we try to build something like this. What activities, through what channels, what will be the core value proposition of this particular student refugee group, or whatever. It'll give us all a clarity. You understand what I'm saying, Zoe?
Yeah.
Right. It should not be that difficult. If I share what I already have, it should be pretty straightforward to do that. Because I think all of us need we need a way to explain to anyone new quickly, what's this whole thing all about, right? I think this might be able to help you do that really well. Then the main question you've asked is, where should we go, and my direct feedback on that, Zoe, is you have to break the problem into 5 or 6 questions, and you can try and get help from people on each question. I think you're not going to get answers from students by asking them, or looking at global shapers. I don't think that's going to give you the right answers. I think we can, like, all the people who were there on that particular call, right, got a good amount of understanding, right? And now you guys are getting slightly a bit more understanding. So I honestly think you and your team can ask Google and get better answers, because there's a lot of people have written a lot of things about all of these problems, right? Whether it is BBC, or whether it is other like Norwegian Refugee Council and Danish DRC, NRC, UNHCR. There is so much of data being poured over on this topics, right? There are so many reports, etc., etc. So, but one thing that really helped me is I always asked, what should I do, rather than all these people who have written reports and getting lost in all these noise, because most of them I don't even know what is their agenda, right? So I really said, okay, look, I just have a simple problem, and how do I solve it, right? And how can the students become an integral part of this solution, right? Think like that. And like how like Steve Jobs always says, right, I don't want to go and ask other people like what functions and features I need to build in this. If they had known it, then why am I there? We have to basically figure this thing out, even if it is really simple. And if you really keep it simple, right, we will all be it might actually work at scale, because anything that's going to work at scale has to be simple, right? Just think, just let's do a simple thought experiment, right? Let's do a simple thing. If we have to get 1,000 students from 100 UK, there are 400, I think, UK universities, if I'm not mistaken. if we have to take 1,000 students and convince them to become brand ambassadors of StepUp.one, what should we do? Like, what do we need to present to these people to become brand ambassadors? And let's make it really simple, right? Let's say the only thing that you guys need to do is to have this banner on your LinkedIn, have this title on your experience and LinkedIn experience, okay? And suddenly, just imagine this, right? We have 1,000 students all over the UK reflecting as a social proof on LinkedIn along with the refugees. Like, we just need to think of a way if somebody is like just looking at us, okay, and he wants to know who are the students and who are the refugees. So there has to be a way they can just separate the two of you, right? So that they know the exact number of students and the exact number of refugees. Otherwise it'll be extremely confusing. So just think in these small, how hard that could be, how hard that, like, getting 1,000 people, and they're not going to do anything. They're not going to pitch. They're not going to. So if you really think about it, right? What have we achieved? We have basically achieved some kind of I don't know the right word for it. Is it branding, or is it they've just joined us. They haven't done anything. They haven't lifted their finger, right? They have joined us, and that has already given us a social proof, credibility, right? Are you guys with me? You agree with me? Yeah. And then, okay, they've joined us, and all of them just put out a tweet or a Insta or something. What did that do to us, right? And then all of them have been allocated, not all of them, maybe let's say 100 of them have been allocated their teams. What did that do? How do we should we announce it? Should they announce it? So think of every step as yeah, thanks, Tim.
Yeah, sorry, just
no.
yeah,
I know it's already
before they stop serving dinner. Shoot off. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Right, lovely to meet you.
Yeah, thank you, Tim. Thank
Cheers.
you. Yes. So I'll finish it. I know it's pretty late for you guys as well. So if you think in these practical, achievable, measurable, we can literally touch it, and we can literally see this happening, right? So we need to get in touch with 400 universities, 1,000 students each, with a pitch, with an idea, with a thing. Okay, we have to do that. If they join us on LinkedIn, on Insta, on this thing, how does that get reflected? Can the whole world see that 1,000 people have joined? LinkedIn definitely, but I'm not sure in Twitter and others. How can people know that these students are a part of us or not? Okay, and then they've joined. They have said they're a brand ambassador. They're now what next? How do we allocate? How do we make them work together? Should we make the refugees and students meet every week once for 30 minutes? And whenever they do it, how do we sort of prove it? Or I'm always looking for proofs and measures. I don't know why. I think I've become a little bit like that. Like, whenever you do something, just leave a proof, right? So that there is a little bit of a history. Like, if you achieved some great success, that's because you did A, B, C. You ran a marathon, but you touched all those different milestones, right? So I think that's how we should think, Zoe and Catherine. I think simple, step by step. We can all see through this, and for every step that I said, right, and every step is an experiment. Like, for example, let's take that's one step. We need 1,000 people to join us, let's say. How do you do that? Okay, I'm going to do this by I'm going to go to UCAS, just a wild thought experiment, because I know the CEO of UCAS and she's a very good friend of mine. So I'm going to go to UCAS and I'm going to say, hey, can we run a small campaign to all the students in UK? There are like 600,000 to a couple of million actually, where we send an email with a small video, right? And see how many join us, right? So things like that. It should be really simple, experimental, either with good results or bad failures. It's okay. Both are good, right? But we should be able to see that, well, we failed or we have succeeded. So that's, if you build your plan like that, Zoe, simple, practical, experiment based, and we learn from each experiment. Oh, this didn't work. This is not the best way to excite the students. And then we try another way, and then we try another way. We can't have one experiment for this entire thing. It's just never going to happen, right? There's an experiment, there's a milestone. Another experiment, another milestone. Another experiment, another milestone. So that way, I think we will really build a very powerful system to make this happen, right?
Yeah, sounds good.
I mean, I've got a lot of clarity. Thank you. I mean, because these are not things that I think about all the time. So, it's not easy for me to just think from thin air.
Yeah, no, I know certainly this has helped me kind of, figure out a little bit more about what we're going to do. And I'm excited to kind of organize this now a little bit more.
If you ask me one more thing, I'll give you. It's a bloody difficult read actually, but if you could read, Lean Startups by Eric Ries. The initial part is a bit boring, but if you can read that, but it is like today the #1 business book on Amazon. Like it's like literally the #1 book. But I don't know, this guy didn't know how to write a book, so it's a very, very boring in the beginning, and then it gets interesting. He talks about this method of doing startups, which is everything is an experiment. So this guy, the chief executive of Zappos is a $2 billion company that got sold to, it's a shoe e-commerce company Amazon bought for almost $2 billion. So this guy said, oh, why can't we sell shoes online? This is like 5-6 years ago probably, or 10 years ago. Why nobody is selling shoes online? So he said, let me do an experiment. Will customers buy shoes online? That's the only question he had. And he wanted to test this question with 1,000 people. So what does he do? Should he build a e-commerce website for shoes? Should he then buy those shoes? Should he, store those shoes somewhere? Should he organize logistics? He didn't do any of those things. What he did, he went to a shoe store near his house. He asked them, can I take a picture of all your shoes? Right? And if any of my guys in the online buy it, I will pay the exact same price to you, right? And buy your shoe. So just see how genius this one, right? And all he did was he took pictures along with the price, put them onto the damn website that he created, and showed it to 1,000 people. And then, like he sold 100 or so shoes. He came back and said, wow, that's a really great experiment. 10% of the people that I told actually bought those shoes, right? So you see, like that's how he did it. He said, wow, that means there is a real interest in buying shoes from internet, right? Okay, let me do the next step. Instead of going to the shop, and clicking pictures, can I do something else? So it's almost like a series of experiments or series of questions with very clear proof or results. I think Zoe is like got stuck. Hopefully
No.
she...
Am I here?
Yeah, you're back. Yeah, you're frozen for like 60 seconds.
Right. Okay. Well, I heard everything, and yeah, I've made a note of that book. So yeah, we'll definitely get to reading that at some point.
Yeah. I know it's not easy to read books. I mean, another way to do that is just download the audiobook and listen to it. A lot more easier. I stopped reading books a long time ago. Just listen to them. It's really cool. It'll suddenly give you perspective, right? Because what you're going to do is actually execute the ideas in that book in reality for a real cause. So when you know the theory, your practical becomes so powerful, because you're not executing what I told, you're executing what someone in Silicon Valley have figured out and made billions of dollars with it, and then so it's really cool when you know the theory and connect with the reality of it. Cool.
Awesome.
Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you very, very much for your time.
Yeah, thank you so much at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's been incredibly useful.
Definitely.
No, I think look, you will realize at some point in time in your life, I think I wonder who got more clarity. Did you get more clarity, or did I get more clarity? So I every time I have such meetings, I really get enriched with a lot of clarity, not new ideas, but a lot of clarity as to how to approach something. Right. So thank you very much. I think it's pretty late, so thank you very much. And we'll I think this guy Ben is organizing something for all of us to meet on couple of weeks from now. So hopefully let's see each other around that time. Yeah. And by then I'm sure you guys would have built something up.
Yes. Okay. See you then.
See you.
Bye. Have a great one.
Thank you.
Bye,
Bye.
Catherine. Bye, Zoe.